No, Josh, Power Rangers are the best 90s cartoon.
No, Kenan and Kel is the best 90s show out there. Not even close.
You have the pink Power Ranger, the white Power Ranger, the green Power Ranger.
Okay, they may have all that, but what they don't have is Flying the Kupp. Welcome to Flying the Kupp this week. My name is Josh Cooperstein. I am one of your illustrious hosts, bringing in my co-host at this time, Mr. Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I am happy to be here, and if they don't get sick of us here, they can find us online on Spotify, and if you want to check us out on YouTube, we are at Flying the Kupp, as well as all social media at Flying the Kupp. That's Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And if you are in that search bar, if it's that name you can't see, it's because it's spelled K-U-P-P.
I usually do that, and you did pretty well this week.
Not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad.
But,
a little more zing and pep, though.
Well,
K-U-P-P.
We need to get into the seriousness. This topic, though, that we were talking about earlier, the best 90s
this
show.
This can cause some fights.
It's going to cause some disagreements.
It's like Mario Party. You never play with your friends.
Well, we play together. You just lose every time, and there's a difference.
I don't want to talk about that.
So you were talking a little bit about Kenan and Kel. What's so special about them?
Oh, Kenan and Kel was fantastic. They would get themselves in so much trouble, and how they got out of it was just absolutely hysterical to see each week in and week out. A lot of things that have withstood pop culture. Orange soda. Who loves orange soda? Kale loves orange. It's timeless. It's a timeless show that not only back in the 90s was so much fun to watch, but even holds up today where anybody can watch. Parents watching with kids watching in this day and age was fantastic. Also, Kenan and Kel was the first time I even got a glimpse of what the future could hold when they had a futuristic episode in which they had someone come up on the TV screen, and it was video chatting. And I thought that was the coolest technology. Back then it was unheard of. And then when it finally came out, that was the first thing I thought of as I saw that on Kenan and Kel. People want to talk about other shows predicting the future. Kenan and Kel predicted the future in that case.
But when we're talking about legendary, defining of the 90s, you have the Power Rangers. They did all time travel, they did space, they had spin-offs. They are legendary moments that I just remember back in my childhood. Saturday mornings were made for Power Rangers and a variety of great cartoons.
Were you ever a Power Ranger for Halloween?
Absolutely. Everyone was a Power Ranger.
Me and my buddy Alex, you know who you are, we were Power Rangers back in circa 1998-ish.
What color were you? That's the important one.
Pretty sure I was silver.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
You got to go with Tommy. Tommy's the best. He is the green Power Ranger.
The colors.
He was the green. He was the white. He was every cool Power Ranger, and he's who you, as an 8-year-old child, that's who you wanted to be. That's my guy, Tommy. But if I wasn't Tommy and if I wasn't a Power Ranger, then I wanted to be ScoobyDoo. I wanted to be Fred. I wanted to be...
You wanted to solve those mysteries?
I wanted to solve those mysteries on those Saturday mornings. It was just so much fun to see the Scooby-Doo cartoons and really just experience those adventures every time, knowing that every time I turn it on, Scooby, Shaggy are going to get into some hijinks, and we're going to have a good time, and we're going to solve a mystery, save hundreds of millions of dollars, solve a murder mystery, and make sure that the Scooby-Doo van is safe.
I don't think I ever saw it coming when they pulled the mask on. They found out who it was. I never saw it. I was always like, you kidding me?
Yeah, I was a pretty gullible kid at that point, but looking back on someone,
they could have had someone walk across the street and say, I'm the one that did it, and I'd be like, wait, they did it the whole time?
Oh my gosh.
I was too gullible as a child.
But that was me watching some of those 90s cartoons, and to me, the cartoons at that age group, I'm under 10 in the 90s, so I love the cartoons. That's my number one favorite. But I didn't have cable as a kid.
That's right.
So I'm missing out on some of the cartoons. What are some of the best cable cartoons?
Well, Nickelodeon had some stellar cartoons. You're talking Rocket Power, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, Doug was all great shows. Those are ones that were obviously on cable, but I'm sure you've made your way to see them at some point in your life, haven't you? It must have been hard because they were not syndicated on the few channels that you did have.
No, but shout out thanks to my Mama and Pop-Up during the summertime.
Shout out Mama and Pop-Up Bennett.
No, Ellis.
Ellis?
Yeah. So, mom's side of the family.
Yes.
So we were always reaching out to them and going there. Ooh, that has to be cut. Don't say names, you idiot.
My bad.
So when we're talking 90s cartoons and me being able to check it out, I went over my grandparents every summer. We were supposed to go to the pool and like go outside and experience that, but me as an overweight, chubby 8-year-old, I want to stay in and I want to watch cartoons because it was the only opportunity for me to see cable, and there was 2 shows that stood out to me.
Which ones?
We got Rugrats and we got Recess.
Ooh, Recess is a good one.
Oh, it was a good one, and the only time that I could experience Recess was ironically in the summertime.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in school. Played soccer a lot.
I didn't do a lot of physical movement, so these 90s cartoons really played a big impact.
So that was essentially your indoor recess, right?
Simply like that, yeah. But I remember Recess and really identifying with Mikey being a bigger guy. Yeah, well, sharing the name, but also being a bigger guy who is fluffy, tall, but will always stand up for what he believes in. He's a little bit more reserved, and I really identified with that. And I grew up to be a fluffier guy, unfortunately not a little bit taller. So I am vertically not inclined. I'm vertically challenged. So that one always sticks with me, and realizing you can make the best situation out of really whatever you got. That's one of the main lessons that Recess taught me. But the other one, Rugrats.
Ooh.
One of the best. You have any Rugrats memories?
I just loved. I just loved how every character had a special thing that they brought to it. Chucky and Tommy and Phil and Lil and Angelica and Stu, and there's been all kinds of conspiracy theories over the years that will freak you out if you know and watch the show. But going back and watching some of them, it is dry humor, but it's things that were being a kid were great and very entertaining to watch. Them flying through after Chucky swallowed the watermelon seed for years. I thought that actually could happen. I love watermelon as much as the next person, but I was terrified that it was going to grow and explode inside me.
Having Angelica, the evil protagonist.
Yeah. Shout out. I heard they actually just brought Rugrats back.
Well, they brought Rugrats back in its original form, but then they had a spin-off in the 2000s.
Now it's back to
the Good Times.
Good Times, but it's in CGI now.
A little different. It's not the same.
Yeah, these 90s, let them be. Let them live in the 90s.
No, 90s cartoons and those 90s shows were super fantastic.
Yeah.
But you know what I just learned recently about Rugrats?
What?
How old do you think the parents of Tommy were?
They probably should have been in their mid to late 20s, but they look like they were 45.
They absolutely look like they were 45. They were around the age of 30, early 30s.
I can see that.
That's our age. And they had babies.
No, I'm not there yet.
Almost.
Hanging on my 20s.
Well, they thought that too, and then they looked like 40-year-olds.
If I start growing hair like Dee Dee, that's not going to be good.
Well, at least you'll still have some hair. So that's always a positive.
Well, actually, the key is to not have hair like the grandpa in Hey Arnold.
Oh, another good show there.
It is another good show.
As long as, we don't have a baby that comes out just like Hey Arnold. They never really discussed how Arnold's football shape head came out.
Yeah, they never said how that happened.
But I think they kind of breezed over that.
Yeah.
It makes sense for our little kid minds.
Everyone just assumes it's all natural. Walks out. If someone has a head that wide, looks like a football, tell me how no one's bringing them to the doctor.
Well, he's got a big brain in there.
Yeah, he does. Very smart. Very smart.
And it's kind of what made the show incredibly fun and really nice. But not all of my memories of the 90s cartoons are really good. At the end of the 90s, Caillou came out. Caillou is maybe the worst children's programming ever.
Yeah, I luckily did not spend too much time watching it, but I remember being at a neighbor's house before school, and they were taking all of us to school, and we were watching whatever was on the TV, and then Caillou came on, and I remember thinking, what is this? It was absolute trash from my viewing point back then.
Yeah, so
it caught on, like a lot of people loved it, but I could not stand it.
And they ran a bunch of seasons with it, which was a little bit funny to me because when I was growing up, super young, growing at age 3, 4, 5, I watched Sesame Street, which is a phenomenal children's programming, wonderful shows, not exclusive to the 90s, but is the childhood.
It goes back decades, but
it creates childhoods for people. Yeah. And I grew up on that television program, and in the late 90s, my baby brother came, and that's when Caillou was there. Yeah. And I even remember him at a young age thinking, Caillou is not the most intelligent fella.
I always knew I liked him.
Caillou or my brother?
Your brother.
Well, good guy.
Yeah. He did once chase me with a hockey stick when we were young, but...
You know, you live and you learn. Yeah. You probably deserved it.
Probably.
But those 90s TVs and shows really helped shape who I am. And it's kind of sad to say that a TV show had such a large impact on my life, but it really did. I even think about watching some of those TV shows nowadays. Do you ever go back and check out a couple episodes?
Yeah, luckily Nickelodeon, I guess it's Teen Nick, one of their channels, does some, they call it the Splat. There's some flashback, late night, you're on 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They'll replay Hey Arnold and Cat Dog and all that. All the original shows they'll play from time to time that were really good. Actually, now that I just think about it, did you ever see Legends of the Hidden Temple? Or
no, tell me about
Double Dare? So Legends of the Hidden Temple was a fantastic show. It was a challenge show with a bunch of kid athletes that was just a bunch of obstacle courses and it was really entertaining. My memory is kind of out on the specifics of it too much, but it's a fantastic show. Double Dare, Figure It Out. Those are like game shows with kids where they were sliding, trying to grab the flag out of the mouth. You didn't have cable.
I really see it. But the one thing I do remember is the slime.
Oh, yeah, slime was rampant then.
It was.
Especially in Figure It Out, because if you got the question wrong, you get dumped with slime on your head.
It's basically a pandemic back then.
Yeah.
Completely crazy, but the Nickelodeon and being slime, that was what every kid wanted. They wanted to be on those shows, didn't they? You wanted to be on that.
Always.
And I would take home a little bit of slime. I wouldn't say it's probably my favorite, but...
No, I actually signed up to Nickelodeon. Was doing the Big Help, was a charity thing. I love Nickelodeon so much that I signed up to have 12 people go out on the Big Help. Never did a single thing. I signed up and never did anything on it.
Well, you're a great big help. You're a great big help.
I had all the intentions of helping.
Good promotions.
I helped in other ways.
Just, 20 years later. You're shouting it out. Maybe people can go back and find that big program there. But that's us growing up as a kid and seeing 90s. But there was one cartoon that really was the epitome of the 90s. Its best seasons happened in the 90s. And it would be the legendary television show, The Simpsons. You ever heard of it?
I love The Simpsons. That's another one that, especially as I got older, in the 90s. I was still young, but old enough that I was away from some of the really, the big comfy couches and those shows really early, late 90s. Loved Simpsons. And so you're exactly right. While it started in 89, the 90s were by far its best.
It's the best era of The Simpsons.
One of my favorite lines that my dad and I, to this day, still go over is the Mr. Plow episode when he's doing the Mr. Plow commercial, and Bart goes up and says, "You're fully licensed and insured by the city, right?" And he looks at the camera and goes, "Shut up, boy." And I still watch it to this day, and I find it hysterical. And all the pranks on Mo, you just can't.
That's probably where all
your on today, but that show, the 90s, was prime Simpsons.
That's where all your pranks basically come from there.
I have childless pranks. What can I say?
But it's a good start, and it's funny you have those stories with your dad too, because I have very similar stories with my dad, where it was, as I was growing up, one of the opportunities for us to bond, because it is an adult cartoon. I would say one of the first, if not one of the most important adult cartoons out there, really creating and popularizing the genre. Yeah.
A lot of pop culture references too.
Sure.
Kind of led the way for what Family Guy became, and if you're a Simpsons purist, you believe that Family Guy is an extension,
a little derivative of it.
Derivative is a good word. I like that.
Yeah. So, if you're not counting things like Ren and Stimpy that were meant to be tongue in cheek for the kids, but really for the adults, Ren and Stimpy, all them. So the Simpsons were focused on that adult market, and that allowed my dad to watch it, but it also allowed me to watch it. So it was one of the first television shows that allowed us to really bond. And I think back on some of those moments of just sitting there at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, of just me and my dad sitting there giggling to ourselves as we just enjoy the cartoons. And it's just a precious memory that we have. And what's so nice about the 90s is a lot of the nostalgia.
And I've heard the statistic that the 90s generation, financially, is the most successful nostalgic decade in history. And if you think about it, today, everything from the 90s still sells extremely well. And it still holds up today more than any other decade. And you play anything, you play Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, you bring up the Rugrats. People see people all the time wearing all kinds of 90s clothes. They bring back 90s shows, they do well, 90s movies. It's a very nostalgic generation overall. And these kids' TV shows were a big part of that, and only the tipping point, because there's a lot to cover in the 90s.
Yeah, and the 90s TV, us growing up, those cartoons, those kids shows were the best. They still hold up today. I think we should go watch a couple episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Go check it out now.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, if you want to continue checking us out in between those Hey Arnold episodes, where can they find us, Josh?
They can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Flying the Kupp. We are also available on Spotify. You can also go to flyingthekupp.com. We have all our videos posted there, news and notes on the show. And if you're in that search bar, you're looking for us, and it's a name you can't see, spell Kupp.
All right, and enjoy watching that 90s TV, feeling nostalgic. We'll see you next time on Flying the Kupp. All right, Josh.
Yeah, what's up?
I need you to grab a vacuum, a deck board, and then I also need the invisibility blanket from Harry Potter, and then meet me behind the second red barn down on 5th Street. I'll meet you there.
Wait. How am I supposed to get the invisibility cloak? Where am I going to... Do you have a vacuum? Oh, here it goes.